Hello everyone, I'm Claire from Susan's family. Today, I'm going to teach you the crochet method for the high neck vest. For this electronic tutorial, you can check it on the website by searching for susud.com. This vest consists of the front piece, back piece, collar and cuffs. First, crochet the front and back pieces from bottom to top separately. After connecting them, pick up stitches and knit the collar and cuff separately. Let's start with the method for crocheting the front and back pieces. The method for the two pieces is identical, both divided into the bottom and the body section. For the bottom, cast on using an alternate method of 2 knit stitches and 2 purl stitches. Then knit in 2 by 2 ribbing pattern. The work piece is crocheted back and forth, and on the wrong side, you need to crochet the stitches in the opposite way. Please see the demonstration. First, let's cast on. To make it easier for everyone to see clearly, I'll demonstrate using cotton yarn. For specific yarn, color schemes and needle sizes, please refer to the detail page of our product and the paper instructions. Since there are a large number of stitches, circular needles are used for crocheting here. Make a slip knot with the yarn tail. Leave a slightly longer end for convenience when weaving in the ends later. Pick up one end of the circular needle with your left hand, insert it into the loop, and gently pull to tighten. This is the first stitch, and this stitch is worked as a knit stitch. Hold the other end of the circular needle with your right hand in a pen gripping posture. Then wrap the yarn tail around your right pinky. Gently pinch the yarn between your middle finger and ring finger. And place this yarn between your index finger and middle finger. This is the basic posture for knitting with straight needles. Next, place the right hand needle over the yarn. Insert it from top to bottom into the stitch on the left hand needle. Use your right index finger to bring the yarn forward. Yarn over and draw the loop through, placing it on the left hand needle. Don't pull the yarn too tight, or it will be difficult to pick up stitches later. This completes the second stitch, worked as a knit stitch. You can see that the yarn is below. Begin casting on for the purl stitch. Place the right straight needle below the yarn. Insert it from the bottom up between these two loops. Pay attention to inserting in the middle position of the loops. Do not go through the loops. Then yarn over and draw the yarn through, placing it on the left straight needle. This is the third stitch, and it is worked as a purl stitch. You can see that the yarn is above. Continue with the beginning stitch for a purl stitch. Place the right needle underneath the yarn. Insert the needle. Yarn over and draw through. This is the fourth stitch. Next, start with the beginning stitch for a knit stitch. Place the right needle above the yarn. Insert the needle. Yarn over and draw through. This is the fifth stitch. Make another beginning stitch for a knit stitch. This is the sixth stitch. Start by casting on, then work the first row with 2 purl stitches. And 2 knit stitches. Alternating and working downwards. Continue casting on following this method until you have the required number of stitches. Here's what it looks like after completing the cast on. In actual practice, the number of stitches will be larger. Pay attention to prevent the loops from falling off on both sides. Let's start knitting the 2x2 ribbing pattern. Let's start with row 1. Where the first symbol is an empty box, indicating a knit stitch, insert the right straight needle downwards into the first loop. Mindful that you're inserting it into the loop itself, not between two loops. Yarn over and draw the yarn through, releasing the loop from the left straight needle as you do so. This completes one knit stitch. Continue with another knit stitch. The third stitch is represented by a horizontal symbol, indicating a purl stitch. Wrap the yarn over the right knitting needle. Then insert the right needle from below upward into the loop on the left needle. Yarn over and draw through. Release the loop. One purl stitch is now complete. Continue with another purl stitch. Then knit a stitch. First bring the yarn back to below the right needle. Insert downwards into the loop. Yarn over and draw through. One knit stitch is now complete. Knit another stitch. The texture below is formed by knit stitches, creating a braid-like pattern. Then purl 2 stitches. Don't forget to bring the yarn up above the right needle. Then insert the needle from below upward into the loop. Yarn over and draw through. One purl stitch is now complete. Make another purl stitch. Let's take a look after it's completed. The purl stitch creates a tile-shaped texture with a yarn bar running across the top. This row is worked by 2 knit stitches. And 2 purl stitches. Alternately, each time you switch between knit and purl. Remember to yarn over, otherwise, you'll end up with an extra stitch. Continue to finish this row, following the same pattern. If the last loop is too large, you can slightly tighten the starting tail of the yarn. Everyone can see that the first row is finished. Now let's move on to the second row. The chart is read from left to right, because it shows the texture of the right side of the fabric. When actually crocheting, you need to work the stitches in the opposite direction. Turn the piece over, hang the yarn with your right hand. The first 2 stitches are knit stitch symbols, but you should work them in the opposite way, so you'll be working purl stitches. The next 2 stitches are purl stitch symbols, meaning you should work these in the opposite stitch, so you'll knit these stitches. In addition to referring to the chart, you can also knit according to the texture of the piece. For the next 2 stitches, if they are in the shape of tile units, knit 2 purl stitches. If they are in the shape of braids, knit 2 knit stitches. Continue to the end of the row, alternating 2 purl stitches and 2 knit stitches. As you can see that row 2 has now finished. For the remaining part of the bottom, the knitting method is simple. Alternate 2 knit stitches and 2 purl stitches. Following the texture, the last row ends on the wrong side. Please refer to the previous demonstration and follow the chart to complete them. Let me show you how to count the rows. Have the right side of the piece facing you, and you can see columns of chains here. One chain represents one row. The lowest chain is formed by the beginning chain. Start counting from the chain just above it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And also count the loops on the straight needles as one row. Here, it means you have worked 6 rows. This is the method to count the row numbers. Up to this point, the technique for crocheting the bottom has been explained. Next, we will crochet the body. Pay attention that you need to change the needle size for the body. Crochet back and forth to match the corresponding pattern. At the top, short rows are needed for shoulder part sloping. Then bind off at the matching position on the shoulders. And hold stitches in the middle at the neckline. Please watch the demonstration. Let's start with row 1, which is worked on the right side. You need to change needles during crocheting. Take out the larger circular needle and knit the corresponding number of stitches. My sample has fewer stitches, so I will only demonstrate the method. Then purl 2 stitches. And knit the corresponding number of stitches. After completing, knit 2 stitches together through the back loop, hereafter referred to as po. Slip 1 stitch knitwise with the right needle. Then knit 1 stitch. And use the left needle to pick up the previous slipped stitch. Pass it over the knitted stitch and off the needle. This completes a right slanting decrease, where you can see the right loop is positioned above the left loop. Then knit the corresponding number of knit stitches. And then make 1 yarn over. Bring the yarn from front to back around the right knitting needle. This creates an additional loop on the right knitting needle. 1 yarn over stitch is now completed. A group of pattern completed. If you need to knit after a yarn over, just knit directly. If you need to knit a purl stitch after a yarn over, and the yarn is currently below, you should bring the yarn to the front over the right needle. Then purl the stitch. Continue following this method. Refer to the chart for knitting until you have 5 loops left. Now we're at this position. Work 1 stitch for SPO. Then knit 3 stitches. The first row is now completed. Also, switch the circular needle size. Use this circular needle for the following knitting. Next, work row 2. Turn the workpiece. Start with the corresponding number of purl stitches. Two knit stitches and one purl stitch. Then work one yarn over stitch. Bring the yarn from back to front around the right needle. The yarn over is now completed. Then work one purl stitch. You can see that there is an extra loop here. This is the loop from the yarn over. Continue knitting the corresponding number of purl stitches. The next chart symbol indicates PO. On the wrong side, you need to work the opposite stitch. That is, purl 2 stitches together on right side, knit 2 stitches together on wrong side, P2 tog. First, switch the positions of the first 2 loops on the left needle. Then move these 2 stitches to the right needle. Pick up the right loop from the front with the left needle. Slip the loops off the right needle. Then return the left loop back onto the left needle. The 2 loops have been repositioned. Insert the right needle into these 2 loops. Work one purl stitch. The stitch for P2 tog is now complete. Let's take a look. The texture of knit stitches worked on the right side of the piece matches the pattern chart. Continue with the corresponding number of knit stitches. One motif is now completed. Refer to the chart and knit the opposite stitch pattern to finish this row. Row 2 is now complete. Proceed to work row 3. Start with the corresponding number of knit and purl stitches. Then work one stitch for SPO. Knit the corresponding number of stitches. Follow with one yarn over stitch and 2 knit stitches. One motif is now completed. Continue following this method and refer to the chart to finish this row. Row 3 is now complete. Next, work on row 4. Turn the workpiece. First, knit the corresponding number of purl stitches. Two knit stitches and 3 purl stitches. Then knit 1 stitch with a yarn over, followed by the corresponding number of purl stitches. Next, work a purl decrease, slip, slip, purl. Then continue with the corresponding number of purl stitches. This completes one pattern repeat. Continue in the opposite direction, following the chart and work the inverse stitches. For this row, this is row 4. Rows 5 to 12 are worked in the same pattern on the right side, and the wrong side is worked in the opposite pattern. All the stitch techniques needed have been demonstrated before. Please refer to the previous demonstrations and follows the chart to finish them. Let me demonstrate the stitching method for row 13 using this small sample. Start with the corresponding number of knit stitches. And work 2 purl stitches. Then work 1 yarn over stitch. Now the yarn tail is above the right needle. Keep the yarn positioned above the needle. Then work a knit stitch. This creates the yarn over stitch. The yarn loop on the right side is the corresponding loop for the yarn over. Continue with the corresponding number of knit stitches. Then knit 2 stitches together on right side. We will refer to K2 tog. Go through both of these loops from left to right with the right needle. Knit 1 stitch. This completes a stitch for K2 tog. You can see that the left loop is above the right loop. Continue with the corresponding number of knit stitches. A group of pattern completed. Continue to the end of the row, following this method. Row 13 is now finished. Continue to work on row 14. Start with the corresponding number of purl and knit stitches. The chart shows the symbol for a K2 tog. On the wrong side, you need to work the opposite stitch, that is, purl 2 stitches together. Use the right needle to pick up 2 stitches on the left side and work them together as one purl stitch. Then purl 2 stitches together on wrong side is completed. Let's take a look at the right side of the fabric. Here you can see the texture of the knit 2 stitches together. Matches the pattern chart. Continue with the corresponding number of purl stitches. One yarn over and 1 purl stitch. This completes one motif. Continue knitting this row, following this method. Row 14 is now completed. For the remaining part of the lower body, until just before the slope of the shoulder, work even in the corresponding stitch pattern, back and forth. Refer to the previous demonstration, and follow the chart to finish them, until before the short rows. When you reach the corresponding position, you need to perform short row shaping for the slept shoulder. Let me explain the short row technique separately for the right and left sides using a small sample. Please learn the techniques first, then follow the chart to work the short rows. For the short rows on the right side, you can see that 6 rows need to be shorted here. The first row is worked on the wrong side, and leave 5 stitches unworked at the end. I have already completed this. The second row is worked on the right side. First, make a yarn over on the right needle like this. Then work 1 slip stitch. And knit 1 by 1 accordingly to complete this row. After completing, continue to work row 3. At the end of this row, leave 4 stitches unworked. In addition to the initial 5 stitches. Note that this does not include the yarn over. After completing this, continue with row 4. Using the identical method as row 2. First, yarn over once. Then make a slip stitch. And finish the row according to the chart. For the upcoming 5th row, leave 4 stitches at the end. Similarly, not counting the yarn over. The technique for the 6th row is identical to the 2nd row. I'll continue to finish these 2 rows. Now that I've finished these short rows, finally, I need to work one more row. To eliminate the row discrepancy, commonly known as eliminate rows, first, purl each stitch in sequence until you reach the last stitch before the yarn over. After completing this, change the place of the yarn over and the next stitch on the left side. Then purl these 2 stitches together. For the following rounds, every time you reach the position of the yarn over, repeat the process of exchanging its place with the stitch on the left side. And then purl them together. Continue to finish this row. Now, the row discrepancy has been eliminated. Let's take a look. This is what the right side looks like. And this is what the wrong side looks like. For the short rows on the left side, you can see that 6 rows need to be turned here. The first row is worked on the right side. Leave 5 stitches unworked at the end. I have already completed this. The second row is worked on the wrong side. First, work a yarn over on the right needle like this. Don't make the yarn over too loose. Then knit 1 slip stitch. Followed by purling into each stitch in sequence to finish the row. After completing, continue to work row 3. At the end of this row, leave 4 stitches unworked. In addition to the initial 5 stitches. Pay attention that the yarn over does not count. After completing this, continue with row 4. Using the same method as row 2. First, yarn over once. Then make a slip stitch. And finish the row according to the chart. For the upcoming row 5, leave 4 stitches at the end. Similarly, not counting the yarn over, row 6 is worked in the same way as row 2. I will continue to complete these 2 rows. Now that I've finished these short rows, finally, I need to work one more row to eliminate the row discrepancy, commonly known as eliminate rows. First, knit one by one evenly until you reach the stitch before the yarn over. After completing, knit together the yarn over and the left stitch into one knit stitch. Each time you reach the yarn over position subsequently. Knit together the yarn over and the left stitch as one knit stitch. Continue to complete this row. Now, the row discrepancy has been eliminated. Let's take a look. This is the effect of the right side, and this is the effect of the wrong side. This is the effect of the right side. And this is the effect of the wrong side. Sometimes, in order to make the row counts match on both sides, you need to knit one additional row. Just follow the chart instructions specifically. After completing the slipped shoulder, first bind off the corresponding position loops on the right shoulder on the right side. Then continue to follow the chart for crocheting. Then, on the wrong side, bind off the stitch loops at the corresponding position on the left shoulder. Finally, hold the remaining loops in the middle neckline. Let me show you the method for binding off at the shoulders using this sample swatch. First, bind off the corresponding loops on the right shoulder on the right side. Bind off while knitting the both sides together. Start by knitting 2 stitches. Then slip 1 stitch from the left needle in front of the next stitch and pass it over the next stitch to complete the bind off for 1 stitch. Continue to knit 1 stitch. Then pick up the first stitch with the left needle again. Pass it over the next stitch, thus decreasing 1 stitch. Continue binding off the corresponding number of stitches. Following this method, pay attention to the last stitch. Purl it according to the chart. Then bind off 1 stitch. The loops on the right side shoulder are now closed. The loops on the right needle correspond to the first stitch of the left shoulder. Continue referring to the chart to finish this row. Pay attention while crocheting. that on the actual left side, you need to follow the previous demonstration of short rows on the left side. To eliminate rows, please finish it on your own. Next, on the wrong side, bind off the stitch loops corresponding to the left shoulder. You can work purl stitches and bind off at the same time on the wrong side. Start with 2 purl stitches. Then bind off 1 stitch. Continue to purl and bind off. Until you reach the last yarn loop before the end. Now we're at this point. Pull up the loop to enlarge it. Then pass the yarn ball through the loop. Slightly tighten it. And the left shoulder will be secured. You can leave this tail for making the collar, or reserve a 10 cm tail, break the yarn, and weave in the end on your own. Next, hold the remaining loops of the collar, which means you need to temporarily secure these loops. We can use scrap yarn to temporarily secure. Cut a length of yarn tail, thread it into a darning needle, and slip the loops off one by one. Once completed, remove the darning needle and tie the yarn tail in a loose knot. This completes the process of holding stitches. Up to this point, the method for crocheting the front and back pieces has been fully explained. After completing the front body and back body, you need to connect these 2 pieces. For the side of the body, use the row-to-row joining method. Pay attention to leave out the sleeve cap position at the top. For the shoulders, sew together using the mattress stitch method. Please watch the demonstration. Next, let's learn about row-to-row joining. We usually use the mattress stitch method as well. When sewing, pick up the horizontal strands along the edges of 2 stitches. Let's start by getting to know the fabric piece. First, locate the edge's first stitch. Typically, there are 4 situations for the edge's first stitch. The first one is a slip stitch, which means sliding it off without knitting following the texture to form a large braid. The second type is also a slip stitch. But when you make the slip stitch, it forms a knot in the opposite direction of the texture below. The third method involves knitting every row, usually knitting on the right side, and purling on the wrong side, forming small braids like this. The fourth type is also knit every row, usually knitting on both the right and wrong sides, to form a garter stitch. The second stitch is located to the left of the first stitch. For example, with this piece, when viewed from one side, the second stitch shows a knit texture, while from the other side, it shows a purl texture. Whether the second stitch appears as a knit or purl texture, you can see that the loops are all oriented in the same direction. The inverted loops, with the horizontal bars below them, represent the horizontal carrying yarn between stitches. This side is the same as well. This is a reversed loop. This strand is the horizontal strand between two stitches. The edges worked in garter stitch are the same. This is the second stitch. And this column here represents the second stitch as well, the right side loop. Between these two stitches, there's an inverted loop. This single strand of yarn between two stitches is the horizontal strand. The edge is worked with slip stitches. Similarly, there are also horizontal strands between these two stitches. No matter which one strand roughly corresponds to one row before sewing. You can weave in the yarn tails on the wrong side and tie a knot to secure it. Here, I won't hide the yarn tail. Mattress stitch involves alternating between the two fabric pieces, picking up the horizontal strands along the edges of each piece to sew them together. Pick up 1-2 strands each time. Note, if two pieces have matching row counts, you can sew them together correspondingly. This means each time you will pick up an identical number of horizontal strands. Always inserting the needle where you last pulled out. To pick up the horizontal strand. Here, I pick up 1 stitch each time. Sew a few stitches, and then slightly tighten. If two pieces have different row counts, but need to be sewn together evenly, you can pick up more stitches on the side, with more rows as needed. For example, if you generally pick up one thread at a time, you can pick up two threads at appropriate positions on the side with more rows. These two pieces have identical row counts. I'll continue stitching them together. This is the method for seamless sewing of rows. The mattress stitch is a common method used to seam stitches together seamlessly. You can leave a long tail at the end of one piece. Thread the tail through a yarn needle and work from the back side. Start by exiting the needle from the middle of the edge stitch on the piece closest to you, which the piece without the tail. Then, exit the needle from the middle of the edge stitch on the back piece. Continue by picking up the reversed braid from the front piece. And then picking up the braid from the back piece, repeating this process. After sewing a few stitches, you can check the sewing position to see if it forms a braid-like texture. If you tighten it, it becomes a seamless seam with no visible trace of sewing. You can decide whether to tighten based on your preference. I'll continue to finish sewing here. And that's how I sew it up. Up to this point. That's it for the explanation of crocheting the front and back pieces. Next, we'll knit the collar. Return the held loops of the neckline back onto the straight needles. Use 4 straight needles to crochet in rounds according to the corresponding pattern. Crochet every round following the stitch techniques on the chart. For the last few rounds, crochet the 2x2 ribbing pattern. When crocheting, you need to decrease stitches. This involves using the purl K2 tog, which is the opposite of the knit K2 tog when working it on the wrong side. Please refer to the previous demonstration for reference. After completing all, you will need to use a sewing needle to bind off in 2x2 ribbing. Please watch the demonstration. Let me demonstrate the method of binding off with a sewing needle. For double ribbing when crocheting in rounds using this sample swatch, cut the yarn and leave a tail about 3 times the length of the piece. And thread the tail into a yarn needle. Have the right side of the piece facing you? First, handle the starting point of the bind off. Insert the yarn needle from the bottom up into the loop of the first knit stitch. Then insert it from the top down into the adjacent loop on the right. Which is the loop from the last purl stitch of the previous round. Slightly tighten. Let's take a look. The double ribbing stitch pattern creates a texture that alternates 2 knit stitches with 2 purl stitches. First, sew together the 2 adjacent knit stitches. Pay attention that when sewing the stitch loops, always insert from the top down into the right stitch. Then insert from the bottom up into the left stitch. And slightly tighten. So to create the texture of a knit stitch, be mindful not to pull the yarn tail too tight, as this can reduce the elasticity at the bind off point. Next, sew the purl stitches on both sides, which are the 3rd stitch and the last stitch. When sewing the purl stitch loops, always start by inserting the needle from the bottom up into the right side stitch. Then from the top down into the left side stitch. So to create the purl stitch texture, slightly tighten. Continue sewing together the knit stitches on the left side with intervals. First, insert downwards. Then come out upwards. You can start by removing this knit stitch loop. Then sew together the adjacent purl stitches in the middle by inserting from the bottom up, and then exiting downwards. Next, sew together the adjacent knit stitches on the left side. If you can't find the stitch loop you just sewed, you can pull this yarn like so to locate the loop. Then insert the sewing needle and pull tight on the yarn tail. Continue by sewing together the purl stitches on either side that are separated by an interval. Let's take a look. The pattern for binding off in 2x2 ribbing is to alternately sew together the loops of knit stitches and purl stitches. Sew the knit stitches on the left side that are spaced apart. You can slip this stitch. Then sew the adjacent purl stitches in the middle. Next, sew the knit stitches adjacent on the left side. Then sew the spaced purl stitches. This completes one group. Continue repeating this sequence downwards. When sewing, pay attention to the direction of the needle insertion. Don't get it wrong. For the knit stitch loop, insert from the top down first. Then exit from bottom to top. Creating the texture of a knit stitch. For the purl stitch loops, insert the needle from bottom to top. Then go out from the top down. Creating the texture of a purl stitch. When there is one yarn loop left, you can pass this stitch over to the next straight needle. And then continue sewing. Continue sewing according to this pattern for the rest of the round, until you reach the last purl stitch loop before the ending position. At the ending position, first sew together the knit stitches that are spaced apart. Then insert into the second to last purl stitch. Next, insert into the adjacent loop on the left side. Slightly tighten. And the bind off is complete. Weave in the ends on the wrong side of the piece. To secure it firmly, work a few more stitches. You can split the yarn tail into 2 strands. And weave 1 strand into the wrong side of the piece. Then make a simple knot with both strands. Secure the remaining part. And trim any excess yarn tails. This way, the yarn tails are woven in neatly. That's it for the method of binding off in 2x2 ribbing when crocheting in rounds. Up to this point, the explanation of collar knitting is complete. Next, we will work on the sleeve cuffs. Note that you need to use smaller straight needles to pick up stitches along the edge of the sleeve cap and work in rounds with a 2x2 ribbing pattern. Let's take a look. The side of the fabric piece has braids, with 1 braid corresponding to 1 row. When picking up stitches, insert into the 2 strands of the braid. Generally, follow the pattern of picking up 3 stitches for every 4 rows. After everything is completed, bind off with a tapestry needle using 2x2 ribbing. The method is identical to the collar finishing technique. Up to this point, the cuff edge knitting method has been fully explained. To this point, the knitting method for this vest has been completely explained. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website. Susan's Family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next episode.